Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question, and that is to discuss the angry narcissist. Really, and to the point, or even someone who has become malignant. In other words, a very sort of toxic anger, a very selfish rooted anger, where the person can't sort of seem to get out of their own bubble. They just sort of are in a almost a talking cyclical within themselves. They're just sort of talking, themselves into circles, and you don't have a chance to sort of intervene, get a word in. If you speak, they don't sort of listen. They're just sort of rattling off whatever it is that they're angry about, and they're oftentimes impenetrable. They're unable to be communicated with. It's just, even though they seem like they're communicating, they might be saying something, yelling something, but they just aren't listening. They have something already in their mind that they have themselves, their mindset fixed on, which is oftentimes very egotistical and very, very selfish based, which gives them this feeling of entitlement, that they then feel that they should just be able to plow over others, violate any sort of rules, sanctums, norms, protocol, regulations, restrictions, that anything and everything should just apply to them. They will just use this shock and awe for manipulation and to get control. And that really, can also rear a ugly head when it becomes anger. So they will do and put people in awkward positions, and using a lot of intense anger is one of them. People, when they're around someone who is angry, they personally feel attacked. Even if the person is just angry about something, the other people who are around tend to feel that they are the cause of it, especially with children. Children are like sponges, and if they see their parents angry all the time or fighting, then they tend to feel that for some reason they can't make their mommy and daddy happy, which is their main goal, because they're the ones who feed and play and put to bed and clean and make them feel comfortable. So that becomes really important. So if they're angry, so kids oftentimes begin to put an internal locus of control or feel blame. And then they will feel then guilty if they try to then make themselves feel happy, because they're so used to this feeling that I make other people upset, or I cause this injury to myself, or whatever it is that happened, and then you're feeling inferior because of this, and they will keep you in that down and out position. It becomes like a real bully and behavior. The anger is like a very much of a bully tactic. So just like in the book of Emotional Vampires, Dr. Bernstein, he talks about this and the vampire bully, and I kind of like the way he puts it as almost like a hypnosis. Meaning, people get sort of hypnotized when they're in that attacked mode. Because when you're getting attacked, it's this, people take it personally, and then it ignites or triggers the fight or flight, which means I must either run, flight, I must fight, go into combat, fight or flight, or oftentimes freeze, which just means you just sort of become paralyzed and you just sort of get eaten alive, basically, or you just sort of, become numbed out until you know what to do. It's like a shock position. Oftentimes people, they don't know how to then think. Their brain gets short-circuited. They, because they're on this fight or flight, which is, this turns on when you're under stress, which when you're around someone who's angry a lot, it's very stressful. Stress meaning it's causing your heart rate to go up. It's causing you to raise your voice, escalate your breathing, breathe shallowly. People might even get lightheaded around this person. They say that they can't think. It's because your limbic brain and then the reptilian brain are being switched on, and then the prefrontal cortex, everything else is sort of being switched off. You can't begin to think, plan, have good judgment, make good decisions. That's all in that prefrontal cortex where the rational decision making is, and then the lessons and things learned, you can kind of think for yourself, in other words. This becomes sort of hijacked, if you will, when you're around people who try to control you with a lot of anger. People feel defenseless. They become dumb. They become docile. They will then fight back, and they'll become an energetic match to that anger, and then they'll become angry. They'll develop, or they'll sustain it for a certain period of time till they can't take it anymore, and then they will develop more angry habits or tendencies. Very, what I would consider pointed speech, blaming people, becoming irritated at others when they don't value being irritated at others. They're usually not very judgmental, they're very accepting people. All of a sudden, they're on the same bandwagon with trying to be, and they don't realize it. It just becomes a very subtle and negative adverse change to what is going on in their life. It becomes very negative. And, anger will overshadow a lot of everything else. It just seems to rule the show. So a narcissist will resort to that, or what you might consider narcissistic rage, especially when the anger can seem very unfounded or in very drastic proportion to the condition for which is required. It's just like, someone who blows a gasket when they accidentally dropped their keys. It's like, you can just pick it up, man, or something happens, they get a flat tire and their whole day is ruined, their whole week is ruined. They can't stop hearing, or, other people can't stop hearing them angry about how long it took or whatever. The anger becomes disproportionate. The narcissistic rage is when their supply or their ego need to be admired, have attention, be the one who is the superior one. I mean, they have to have this in balance in the relationship. And some people, I guess, if they think that that's okay, well, you might think it's okay until it becomes very imbalanced and things just don't feel right, and the anger starts running the show, or it becomes very superficial. In other words, there is not enough substance to the person. They're just angry. They're just riled up. It's all about them and their opinion. Like M. Scott Peck, they have a perpetual toothache. That's all they can think about. You can't very much concentrate on your schoolwork if you've got this toothache. So it's very, very important that you understand that anger really needs to be appropriate. You have legitimate anger, which needs to have an outlet. If it's bottled up, it can create a lot of muscle tension, muscle problems, stomach aches, stomach problems. These are emotions that are stored and packed, otherwise known as repressed in the body. Has to be repressed. I'm freaking out. I might as well give in to their rage. I must let them win. Your pedal falls to the floor. You're just powerless. This, and oftentimes it happens that quickly that you can't catch it. So you have to be able to get into the role of metacognition, which where you learn, to think about what you're thinking about, or to have that higher, wiser perspective in situations when confronted, so that you're not, an energetic match to that anger. You're something different. You've got a different wavelength. You're on a different vibe, and you're in control. They're not controlling you with the anger. The narcissist will resort, that's just, a way for, people to get significance is through anger. Sometimes it's very appropriate, and it has a very much of a place. But then there's very inappropriate manipulative anger, which is just designed to dull other people's shine, to stop them, to, shut them down, to shut them up, to make them wrong. It doesn't allow people to live, breathe, talk, communicate, be, exist, think, grow, have a life if they cannot use it, if they cannot be, so it almost becomes like a manipulation of another's ability to be and be a human being. So it creates a real disorder in the foundation of the self-esteem and I am the identity of others. I mean, it can go that deep. Anger is a very powerful, potent, and toxic emotion. I mean, it's something that you don't want to be around. Stress is lethal. I mean, they say that, oh, really, but that guy is just very assertive. No, that person is a lot of anger and gets things done. They are very pushy. They think that they get their way by acting angry, by, falling the door down, and sometimes they get their way, but, after a while, no, that does not work anymore. We don't tolerate bullies. This does not help you to get in the door. This does not help you to get your way. This is not acknowledged and validated. Go away. Sorry. Adopt a different tone and be real and empathetic, or it's not happening. You are out. Next, please. I mean, it's just, come back on another day or with a different attitude. But oftentimes they don't have a different attitude. They don't have a different personality. That's who they are. And so it is. And then let it go. I mean, that's just who they are. Allow them to be who they are. It doesn't mean that you have to intermingle with their anger and their negativity. You need to stop surrounding yourself with people then who bring you down. You need to be with people who lift you up and support you and allow you to be independent. And if they tear you down, then you have to heal and then build your own self up and then support yourself. I mean, that you have to stop the bleeding of the emotional vampires. And oftentimes that anger can really create a lot of wounds and woundedness that continues to bleed out for a lot of people. They lose and bleed out a lot of joy, a lot of time where they could have been feeling better about themselves instead of trying to resolve another person's anger. I mean, people will spend weeks and months trying to make amends with and help another angry person to not be so angry anymore. I mean, of course, because it's like you're trying to stop the pain by stopping them being a pain in your life. I mean, it can be, having that anger around is very painful. So their anger becomes more important than your identity. I mean, it just washes it away. It becomes it's like the totem pole. It's just, it doesn't matter what's underneath. All that matters is the eagle on the top. That's what people see, and that's what this is, and so it is. I mean, there is no getting up a totem pole with a narcissist. They just, it will not be tolerated by them, and they might hover back. Oh, I've changed. You can't believe it. So that emotional vampirism is very serious. And it can be very ongoing where you feel controlled by them even when they're gone, or you're afraid to run into them. That sort of harkens to that sort of hypnotic state where if they've done it strong enough with intense enough anger, people then have this sort of residual fear that, something's, they're going to run into them and they're not going to know what to say. How about being yourself, which is who you should have been able to be the whole while? But of course, you're not an energetic match to someone who is not in your self-best interest. Well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing to learn. You are not an energetic match to someone who does not have your best interest, who wants to manipulate you, brainwash you, crazy make, crazy talk, crazy making, I mean, all the game of playing, that is what the manipulators do. It is all about a game. I mean, it is not about playing fair and being open and honest. And after a while, that doesn't hold any salt. Cheaters do not win, and people eventually will grow into a better camp, and that's what I call positive, orderly direction, thinking, feeling, behaving, and becoming. Pod thinking. So it's like going in the direction of the right, where you want to be, in alignment with how you see yourself, how you want to live your life, how you want to feel, what you want to experience. But oftentimes it's a rekindling of what you want, because you could not even be in attention to that, because their anger always overrid your wants, your needs, what you listened to, what you felt, how you could behave and decide, especially at very formative or ongoing extended periods of time in your life, so that you always had to sort of, do this like two-step decision making, and you couldn't just like walk your path. You have to like walk one path of your life and one path on their life until they're happy. And then it's like, wait, why can't you walk your own path? It just becomes a very much of a different change of perspective and footing and groundedness. And a lot of people feel very guilty then, sort of being grounded, and they always second guess themselves. They feel very guilty, because they've been so tarnished to feel that you're okay to be okay. In other words, they have a lot of guilt because they weren't taught that for you to be happy is okay, that simultaneously you're taking away from somebody else. So there's all these different mixed messages, which you really have to separate if you've encountered a lot of this toxic anger. And that requires a lot of work and self-reflection, which can be done. It can be done. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and for goodness sake, please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Get out of the way of toxic anger. Get out of the control that the type of anger is oftentimes seeks. That is the intent. It is a negative intent. So you want to get out of the line of that negative intent, and get out of line shot out of that, or whatever it's called, because you don't want to be brought down with someone with that malintent. It's just not fun, and it's just not fair. It's just not right, and so it is. Have a beautiful day. Remember, peace is within, and so that peace can be without. Practice that, rehearse it, and rememorize. It is okay. I am at peace. I am okay, and so it is.